Anyone who's DM'd for enough people knows that some players are just impossible. In this case, it's a player that acts without regard for consequences and gets surprised when his actions come around to bite him. But first, a huge thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Spellcasting, a staple of the fantasy genre, but just about anybody can fling an odd spell or two. This comprehensive enchanting guide is none other than Elisa's Guide to Magic, an expanded magic system for 5e. Consider this. You can tailor-make your own spells with buildable, raw magic effects, execute tactical combos, and work together using magical teamwork, including a brand new system for communing with and summoning magical spirits. This dynamic summoning system often comes with unexpected outcomes. Add 4 brand new classes, the Vala Witch, the Summoner, the Scion, the Arcanologist, and 13 subclasses between them, with 6 subclasses for the traditional 5e classes. If you enjoy crafting and alchemy, there's also a guide to potions, poisons, and forging unique magical items. So definitely check out all it has to offer in the link in the description. I ran my first D&D campaign with my best friend of over 20 years. We'll call him Nubs. Add our other friend Sherm, and with me DMing, we were set. We all agreed that you can be any alignment except evil. Nubs was chaotic neutral, and Sherm was lawful good. After a couple of months playing, I decided I was experienced enough for more players, so Nubs brought in a guy from work. It was his first time playing, so I sent him the link to the D&D Beyond campaign to fill out a character sheet. He went with an elf fighter, lawful neutral, whose name was something Japanese sounding, I forget, whose backstory was his village was burned down by a golden dragon, leaving his left arm scarred and his father's katana blackened, and his left arm had special powers that could give him a boost of strength, but drained his life force. Here's the thing about weebs. I love them when they aren't awful. They have cool ideas and a fun aesthetic, but at worst their ideas are just crappy versions of whatever they stole it from. I don't know what anime this arm thing is from, but I guarantee someone in the comments will know for sure. I told him I would try to work that in, but no guarantees. The first night he joined was uneventful, aside from a few wrong rolls, but night 2, after completing a quest given by the leader of the military of this country, Cringelord walked away from the group saying, "I climbed the top of the building while the guards aren't looking." I make him do his rolls, which somewhat succeeded, but he didn't pass the stealth check. I tell him a guard saw you do this and orders you to come down. Cringelord refuses. Sherm and Nubs tell him to get down. We are not looking for trouble. Cringelord then says to the guard, "Why? I'm not causing any trouble. Yet." To which the guard ordered the archers on the wall to take aim. I told him as DM, there are 80 well-trained archers aiming at you. If you don't get down, they will fire. This is as good a warning as anyone could possibly expect. The DM is being so nice too. The player is basically provoking the guards. Imagine you're a cop, you know? You're just gonna leave this guy off with a warning, and he just stares at you like, "What? I didn't reach for your gun. Yet." It should be rare that the DM has to warn a player like this, but if they don't seem to understand the gravity of their actions, just outright telling them that they're boned is much better than making them find out. Surely, with a warning as strong as this guy will lay off, right? So Cringelord gets down, but then states, "I remove my katana from its sheath and slice the guard's head off." His attack lands, decapitating the guard. So I say all of the archers lose their arrows. I then make 80 attack rolls, 62 landing, causing him to die, and the cleric did not heal him. I make his death throws, since this is how we agreed to do it. He then gets on the app and watches to make sure I'm not lying, which irritates me since I make it a point to not lie in life. Cringelord's character dies. I say, "Sorry man, you died. You can make a new character if you want." So he agrees, and then we end the session. I text everyone the next week to set something up, and Cringelord texts me personally. I'm not making any of this up.
Sorry, I don't think I can play with you people anymore. You clearly show favoritism to your friends, even after I bought you a bottle of Crown Royal. You made it clear from the start you don't like me or my character because you thought my idea was stupid, when in reality, your campaign is stupid, with no direction. We spent an hour talking about nonsense while you made us food instead of playing the game. You're not a good DM after watching popular D&D content. That's not how the game is played. I was playing my character the way I thought he would be. You're an a-hole, but thanks for the opportunity to learn that for myself. Little wee.
You better hope I don't see you again. Bro, what are you going to actually do?
Slap a Cheeto-dusted handprint onto my face?
I love empty threats like these because they usually come from someone who couldn't do anything even if he wanted to.
You better hope I don't see you again, or I'll get you with my Naruto replica kunai from Spirit Halloween. Datemayo!
Side note about me. I'm prior service, but fairly short at 5'5". I have a tendency to fly off the handle when my integrity is questioned, so I replied, "You are such a child, you can't handle that your expectations got your character killed. Not me, but you want to make this an IRL issue. I'm not the one to threaten like that. Up until now, I had no issue with you, just how you chose to play your character. But you're no longer welcome back to my house or Sherm's." We then continued with just the three of us and had fun until schedules did not line up anymore. Ah yes, the true killer of D&D campaigns claims another victim. It's not bad players or bad DMs, but scheduling. It's always scheduling. Anyways, here's another dysfunctional group. I've been a DM for quite some time now, and I've run a few games and an ongoing campaign for my friends. One of my players, we'll call him DM, pulled me aside and said a mutual friend of ours wanted to try and play D&D. I offered to show him the ropes and run a few one-shots with the friend in order to get them interested and introduced to the game's mechanics. After a few one-shots, the DM asked me if I'd be interested in being a player for once to take a break from my constant DMing. This would be DM's first time being a DM, which I heavily encouraged as I knew he had a creative mind. I agree, and our mutual friend sets up a small group of players. Once I'm told what everyone's chosen, I'm a little disappointed as I haven't been a player in quite a while, and my default pick is Bard. But I didn't want to pick a class that's already chosen, and seeing how we needed a frontlining tank, I opted to try something new and picked my Zealot Barbarian Warforged. First session begins and the DM gives the party a fairly simple introduction to the world, and we start in the generic, one by one, you all slowly begin to meet at the local tavern. As we begin to introduce our characters and have them meet one by one, the party quickly established that there was a common interest to explore, form a party, and acquire some golden status. This is just how I run my games, but I don't really like the everybody meets in a tavern intro. In my home games, I like to kick the game off with a bang. Just load them into a cannon, fire them headfirst into danger, and let them get to know each other after the dust settles. I like it because it gets the game moving, sets the tone, and lets the players introduce themselves through actions first, then words. Also, it gives the party a reason to stick together as the danger doesn't stop after the first encounter. This isn't the best or only way to start a campaign, but it's the way I do it at home. The party made haste and went to the town's Adventurers Guild in order to form our official party. I should note that by this point, the bard had failed a performance check while playing for a free drink, the sorceress had gotten intoxicated, and the cleric went off to pray at a local church, which he ended up breaking the altar and landing himself in debt to the church. After arriving at the guild, we were all presented with a small form to fill out: group members, group name, and most importantly, group leader. Now, as the form is being filled out, no one in the group wished to take the responsibility for being the group leader. I decided to take initiative and asked if everyone was okay with me being the leader, which everyone was okay with. Now, being considered the group leader was only for two things. One being to officially sign any high-level group quests, and two, to be handed the reward in the end. The leader is by no means the person in charge or running all the shots. We begin to take up a few quests, and I begin doing what any normal barbarian would, with a bit of reflavoring due to being a warforged. I raged and swung my way through each battle, rocking a solid 16 AC with unarmored defense, making sure to keep the heat of the fight on me. We later come into this back and forth sort of sway where all I hear is, "Hey barbarian, what do you want to do?" Or, "I'm just gonna follow barbarian around." A few sessions went by of exploring, role-playing, and combat. I'm having fun being a PC for once, as I've only ever really DM'd before, and this 5th session is when disaster struck for my barbarian. We've just come out of a combat against a creature that the DM had made unique to his world. We had explored this interesting sort of Egyptian-style temple that was also a prison. At the end of combat, 3 PCs had fallen unconscious from a large AoE spell that the monster had used, essentially a reflavored fireball. With a bit of persuasion from Wiggy, our problem player, we had gotten 3 health potions at a good price, and as a team leader I used all 3 to revive our fallen players. The session soon came to a close and we had all gone home. The next day comes around and I tend to my work as normal, only to be texted by the DM with a, "We need to talk." Now, I've been friends with DM for years, so these texts can come with a variety of meanings, and I took it as chill. Got out of work at night and DM pulls me aside when I got home and says, "Look, I don't know what other way to say this, but the party," he says to avoid name dropping, "is complaining about you." I was shocked. I wasn't sure what happened. He later goes on to explain how the party was complaining that I was too overpowered and doing all the work, and how they had tried to manipulate him into nerfing my character. I was furious, but I was always one to avoid confrontation and pointless fights, so I calmed down a bit. I asked if it was okay for me to know who was complaining about me, so I was told that it was mainly Wiggy with a small bit from Arishi. They talked about how I was hogging all the spotlight and using unfair game mechanics for being a GM to make my character OP. I was just a level 6 zealot barbarian with the sentinel feat. This is just goofy. Nobody wants to think independently or take initiative, but as soon as someone tries to push the party anywhere, that's where we have a problem. This is actually a real phenomenon. It's called crabs in a bucket. If you put a bunch of crabs together in a bucket, they will actually stop each other from escaping. This happens in real life too. There are friends or families that treat people like trash for improving their situations, and D&D groups that won't lift a finger to move the story forward, but will complain if anyone else does. So, what does the group do about this? Let's see. The group carried on for 2 more sessions. The first one I wasn't a part of due to a vacation with my father, and supposedly, while I was gone, Wiggy had gone out of his way to continue complaining, and even dropped the comment, "See, it's so much better when Barbarian isn't here." DM has had enough by this point, as he had grown tired of Wiggy's constant attention-seeking, distractions, playing Overwatch while we were mid-campaign, and complaining and questioning about every single detail that the DM tried to implement. DM implemented what he calls the punishment die. It's a D100 with a punishment that goes up in tens. 1 through 10 is a punishment, 11 through 20 is a punishment, etc. This was implemented more as a general punishment die so it could happen to any one of us if the DM deemed what we were doing was inappropriate or disrespectful at the time. Oh, I hate this mechanic. I'm usually understanding when it comes to different playstyles, but this is just bad form. If your players are so disruptive that you need to make up a mechanic to punish them rather than talk about it, your players are not and were never a good fit for your game. I spent 3 hours making this highly detailed flowchart for DMs to know when it's time to kick out a player. I worked really hard on this, so just no screenshotting, okay? Here it is. As you can see here, if the player is disruptive, talk to them about it. Failing that, they can find a new group. Anyways, that concludes my flowchart. At no point is there a part of fixing the player's behavior by punishing them in-game without a real shot at communication. It's a bold strategy. Let's see if it pays off for them. In the later session where I did join, I decided to play a bit more passively and made my barbarian a bit clueless as to encourage them to take initiative and do things as that's what they were complaining about. The session continues and combat starts. In order to allow them to do more, I decided to only attack once per turn. I do have an extra attack. The combat ensues and the foe is slain by the cleric who used a guiding bolt to take off the creature's head. Everyone's laughing and having fun, or so I thought. Session closes and we all go home. DM texts me about how Wiggy was once more complaining about my character for doing too much and dealing too much damage. You had to be joking with me, right? Well, no. Turns out he was serious. He felt like I hogged all the spotlight, having stayed away from all the perception and investigation rolls, and was too overpowered in combat. Only attacked like 4 times for a grand total of 31 damage, distributed between 4 attacks without extra. DM is currently in shackles as he wants to kick out Wiggy for causing this much trouble, but knowing his friend group, he knows he'll find better results by canceling the campaign and starting anew with a separate friend group that already plays D&D and won't complain as much. I feel like Wiggy dislikes OP for other reasons. If he actually made a point to do as little as possible and Wiggy still has a problem with him, I'd wager that there's another hidden reason that we don't know that explains why Wiggy's so mad at him. Whether OP knows or not, that's my bet. Then again, people are weird and maybe he's actually genuine, just also delusional. That said, I have to agree with the DM about one thing. If you want a boring but peaceful way to extract the problem players, just suddenly have scheduling issues and drop them. Then, after the game is dead, your schedule magically reopens, allowing you to start a new group with better people. It's the easiest way, definitely the least hard. Anyways, as always, till next time.